take down the intro screen and show you my pretty face. Um, I wanted to just point out a little bit the intro screen for today is a shot of Barcelona from the port. Oh, thank you, Matricula. You're very pretty too. The social justice bards are just chock full of pretty people. Um, But yes, the picture you're seeing right now is a shot of Barcelona from the port, and you can see some of the cool uh, aspects of the city through the tallest loop of um, the big steel sculpture. You can see the towers of Sagrada Familia poking up. You can see another church tower off to the right. You can see one of the several big monuments, obelisk things to the right. And so just to give you a feeling for the city, because we're going to be talking about specific stories and less about the city. But it is one of my favorite cities ever. It's great. So let's actually get to the main content. Hi, hello. So first, thank y'all so much for joining me. I'm really excited that I get to yell stories at you. Yay, a wild joy. and get some practice in my storytelling. It's something I love to do and something I don't get nearly enough opportunities to do. So, as a lot of you know, I am a very rare Pokemon. There are very few like me. And this isn't even my final form. That's an appropriate reference, right? So, as some of you know, I got back, I guess just over a week ago, maybe closer to 2 weeks now, from a big, long, amazing trip from Barcelona up to the Baltic. And I saw so many things, and I went so many places, and I had a lot of food, a lot of booze. But because I'm me, one of the things I really, 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 really love about traveling is hearing the stories that go along with places or seeing things, particularly for me in religious art across traditions. Seeing things and going, that's an interesting representation. I've never seen that before. What's up with that? So I thought we could talk today about a couple of really hardcore saints. I mean, there's a lot of really fucked up stuff in hagiography in general. And hagiography is the lives of saints, the writing of saints' lives. So lots of really screwed up stuff in that genre in general. But some of the ones I saw in Barcelona Cathedral, which is this lovely picture here, are particularly high level. So yes, orientation, Barcelona Cathedral. This is not Sagrada Familia, the Church of the Holy Family, which is probably the church you hear about and think about in connection with Barcelona. But this is the actual cathedral where the bishop sits, and it's much older than Sagrada Familia. And therefore, much more of a mixed bag in respect to what kinds of representations, what kinds of iconography are inside of it. It's much less planned, much more accumulated. So, let's see, shall we? So the first folks we're going to look at here, this is one of the side chapels. Let's see, right, yes, my Vanna White. This is one of the side chapels in Barcelona Cathedral. And so often I get fixated on the statues, but this time I was really struck by a lot of the paintings, a lot of the 2D images. Yeah, Crafty Kaiju, it's pretty neat. I was struck by the paintings. And this one in particular, this is the two big figures in the center. One little lady with a cocked hip and looks like she's holding a big quill pen, and the other a dude who looks like he's about to go out hunting. This is Saint Thecla on the left and Saint Sebastian on the right. And Saint Thecla is the first. Yay, thank you, Matricula. My wonderful spouse took almost all the pictures you'll see here today. I pulled some from the wide and wonderful interwebs for instructional and contrast purposes, but all the ones from our trip were taken by my spouse. So Saint Thecla, like a lot of female saints, has, and just content warning right up front here, there's attempted sexual assault in what we're talking about today. There's physical violence in what we're talking about today, because these things are predominant in the lives of saints. So Saint Thecla was a noble virgin. Of course she was, because we can't have our saints being poor or not virgins unless they're reformed whores. Yeah. So, noble virgin from Iconium. And she's going along, being a teenager. Everything's fine until St. Paul comes to town. St. Paul screws up everything, right? And he starts preaching around town on the benefits of virginity, on the benefits of never marrying, which, to be frank, were numerous and varied for a woman in that time period. If you don't get married, if you don't have sex, you can't die in childbirth. You can only die from, the plague or starvation or tainted water, but not childbirth. This is not inconsiderable. So St. Paul's walking around preaching the benefits of not getting married, not having sex. And St. Thecla sits by her window, watching him, listening to him, and decides that she's on board with this and she's going to remain a virgin for life. Proceeds to break off the engagement that her mother has made for her to a wealthy pagan family, and as a result, gets estranged from her mother as well. This is a civil obligation, right? It's not just about Thecla. This is about her duty to her family, her duty to society, etc. So her family gets really pissed off at her. And instead of, or maybe after, talking to her and trying to come to a resolution, they go to the authorities and ask, burn the family, Matricula. Burn the family. They go to the authorities and say, our daughter has been led astray by this wandering preacher. We need help. Punish her, set her on the right path. So the authorities go about setting to punish Thecla and Paul. But they don't start with something a little more proportional, like, I don't know, putting her in the stocks, or, flogging is pretty severe. But no, we're going to jump straight to burning her alive. Apparently, we want to make an example so that no other girls start getting ideas about not dying in childbirth or following strange religious traditions. That too. So Thecla, right, burn the family, don't burn her. So Thecla is set to be burned at stake. But a miraculous storm arises and puts out the fire. And so she, very cleverly, jumps down, runs off with Paul, and begins her life as an itinerant preacher. Now this, let me pause here to say that this is one of the points where this story, which comes from an apocryphal account, the Acts of Paul and Thecla, this story pushes back against New Testament accounts of Paul, both theologically, because Paul wasn't necessarily anti-marriage. Sometimes it sounds like, well, it's better not to marry. It's better just to focus on God, on the spiritual life. But he's also very clear that cacophony, yay, so much better late than never. Yay, welcome. So he's not anti-marriage in the way that Paul is presented in this apocryphal account. And this also presses back against some of the anti-woman, women should keep silent stuff that Paul puts out there in his epistles. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. So Thecla's following Paul around as a lady preacher. One of the places they go, they're in the city, they're preaching. Thecla's wandering around the city at night, and some dude thinks that he has a right to her body. She fights him off, which, go her. But for doing that, because women are punished for defending themselves, right? She's sentenced to death by wild beasts. So she's put in the arena, the wild beasts are released, but instead of devouring her, the female beasts surround her and fend off the male beasts, because ladies got to stick together. Solidarity here, no competition. I would also like to point out that she gets in trouble because of following Paul, and Paul never really shows up to help her when she is in trouble. Not cool. But she and Paul do have this sort of platonic, almost romance going on. They are life mates. They are partners in the work. They preach and teach together. But, clearly there's no sex, because that would be wrong. There's also this idea that Paul was just super attractive in this telling of the story, super attractive to women wherever he went. And that was part of what pissed off the dudes in power. Like, our wives are listening to you and not to us. Which, maybe it's because you don't treat your wives very well, and Paul's offering them an alternative. But there is this sort of pseudo-sexual, maybe platonic, not sexual attraction and relationship there. And it's an interesting tension to look at. Yes, alternative D. Absolutely. That doesn't actually involve much D at all. So after years of traveling around with Paul and preaching and teaching and specifically talking to women, Thecla goes off to retire, live in a cave, outside of society, and she becomes a healer for the local population. And she's, this is a Catholic church, right? Catholic, nope, there, yes. Catholic Cathedral. So clearly she's venerated in the Catholic Church, but she has a very strong following in the Greek Orthodox Church. My local Greek Orthodox Church, their ladies' society is named for Saint Thecla. And in the Orthodox traditions, she's called equal to the apostles, an apostle among women. And so I really like her. I have a really soft spot for Thecla, because I have a soft spot for lady saints with agency. And whatever other problems there are, it's definitely that. And just for comparison, this is how Thecla is represented in Orthodox type. Yeah, Orthodox icons. So it's very different, much less like tilted hip, slightly flirty, very straight on, which accords with Orthodox styles anyway. But I was a little surprised to see Thecla as done up as she was in Barcelona Cathedral. So, and then for just for a little bit of a closer up on the cathedral portrayal, you can see a little bit clearer here. Thecla with her, it looks like a quilt to me, and I always want it to be, but it's actually the martyr's palm. So the palm of victory for being martyred in defense of your religion or because of your religion. Yeah. So she's holding the palm, and again, kind of got the cocked hip thing going on, ready to slay, right, ready to fight off entitled dude bros. And beside her, I would like to briefly draw your attention to Saint Sebastian, who is the dude who looks like he's ready to go hunting. Now, if you are at all familiar with Saint Sebastian, usually portrayals of him look more like this. Sometimes there are more arrows. Sometimes he looks like he's actually in pain instead of wondering when this execution is going to get started. Because Saint Sebastian was martyred by being shot full of arrows, a relatively early Christian martyr. And he's almost always depicted just kind of pin-cushioned, full of arrows. Right? He's bored. This is a very substandard martyrdom that he's got going on here. And for maybe because so many of his representations are bare-chested and kind of exposed and sexified, maybe because there's a lot of penetrative stuff going on here. Saint Sebastian is, as much as there are queer Catholic, gay Catholic icons, that's Saint Sebastian. This right, very alternative D. The arrows are not the arrows are penises. Yep. One day we'll talk about the queer reading of the Doubting Thomas story. One day we'll talk about that. Today's not that day yet. But yeah, so normally he looks like this. But in Barcelona Cathedral, he's carrying the arrows. He's got his bow. To be fair, the panels around the side of the central panel do show their stories in a little more detail, including a more typical pincushion Sebastian. But, like, dude, you're going hunting. This is... Okay. So, interesting representations. Yeah. Sorry, distracted by looking at the time. Does anyone have any questions at this point? I've been rambling on and on, and please feel free to pop up in the chat with questions or concerns, thoughts, etc. As I have tea. So this cathedral is from the Barcelona Cathedral, Matricula, which is technically Cathedral of Saint Eulalia. For those saintly folks who were with me at my for my very brief "How does this thing work with my setup" stream, I showed some other pictures from the cathedral, including a series of pictures of the martyrdom of Saint Eulalia, and this is the same cathedral, just different stuff. It's huge. It has a lot going on in it. A lot of different saints, a lot of different styles, a lot of really cool stuff. I really like it. It's one of my favorites. Our other big story for today, well, another glimpse of shirtless Sebastian for your visual pleasure. Then our other story today, Saint Lucy. So, on first glance, Saint Lucy, I'm gonna figure out this directional thing eventually, I promise. There we go. Saint Lucy. Good guess, Matricula. Good guess that those are testicles. They are not. They are not. Those are her eyes. Those are her eyes. Because, like Thecla, like most of the young, pretty saints, female saints, right? Twist. And unfortunate, problematic, weird. We'll get there. Like most female saints, Lucy was a virgin, noble-born virgin, and she decided, apparently without the direct intervention of St. Paul waltzing into town, she decided that she didn't want to get married. She wanted to stay a virgin forever, and she wanted to give her dowry away to the poor, which, good classically Christian move, right? Her mother, who had made a very lucrative engagement for her to a wealthy pagan family, was understandably put off. But then, her mom, whose name was Eutychia, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. I might be butchering it. I don't know. But Eutychia fell extremely ill. And in that day, the plague strikes, or you get the flu, or something starts going on with your guts. I mean, maybe you see a doctor and maybe that helps, but your chances are probably just as good for going on pilgrimage and asking to be healed. So, as sickness does, so often it scared her mom, got her attention, and she agreed to go with St. Lucy to St. Agatha's shrine, who was a popular local saint who had predated Lucy and whose story has a lot of the elements that kind of set the pattern for female saints. So they go to St. Agatha's shrine, and this is a pilgrimage, so they're there for a couple of days, praying, maybe making offerings. At night, when St. Lucy's asleep, St. Agatha comes to her in a dream and tells Lucy that because of your faith, your mom will be cured. Now, this came to pass, and Mom was clearly extremely grateful. So she said, okay, well, we can give away some of this money. Some. Let's not go overboard, but I've been given a huge gift and reciprocity, right? But don't you think we should set aside a sum to be given away as a bequest on your death? Right? Right? I mean, that's still good. That's still good, right? And here, Lucy puts her foot down. It's like, no. What you give away at death, you give away because you have no use for it anymore. Instead, why don't you give away what you would have given away at death now, while you're living, because you want to, even though you could still use it? Her mom's like, okay, was your faith that got me better, I guess. So, Lucy's suitor, Lucy's betrothed, was not okay with this. Was not okay with my betrothed, my fiancé. Part of the agreement was that you bring this substantial dowry to our marriage. Yeah. And now you're going to go give it away. This is a violation of contract. This is not all right. I'm going to the authorities. There's a lot of going to the authorities for things that I don't necessarily think merit going to the authorities in these hagiographies. So he goes to the authorities, denounces her, and they are deciding what to do with her. Because, I mean, right, common theme. But this guy, he doesn't really want her to die. Because if he doesn't marry her, he doesn't get her money. And also, I mean, to some extent, she has really pretty eyes. He's really into her eyes. And he keeps coming to her in prison while they're deciding what to do with her. Being like, spare your beautiful eyes. Wouldn't you rather marry me? Bat, eyelash. Then give away your money and live in destitution, or then die for your convictions. And so after he's done this one time too many, Lucy has had enough. She's had enough of telling this guy to go away and leave me alone. This is my money, not yours. I will do what I want with it. And just like, my eyes are the only thing holding you. My eyes are the only thing keeping you attracted. Whoop. Plucks them right out and gives them to him. And after that, he was done. He was done, totally okay with her being put to death by the sword. Brutal. So, on the one hand, I really respect the I really respect the way that Lucy, right, the way that Lucy just, takes control of her destiny, and it's like, nope, whatever it takes, this is what I want. Pain is nothing. All this is nothing. I got it. And at the same time, it seems like a weird, it seems like a strange take on the, if your eye offends you, pluck it out. If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. In the Gospels, right? Which on the one hand, I appreciate how that scripture is coming back to talk back to folks who are like, good Christian ladies, please don't tempt your brothers to sin by dressing with low necklines and form-fitting clothing. And people use that scripture to talk back to it, saying, yeah, well, you know what Jesus said? He said that if you can't control your eyes, if you can't control your lust, take them out. Right? And I love that. But there is an aspect of this story feels a little bit like it's putting the onus back on women. Like, he won't stop trying to sin with you or trying to sin over you. So take out your beauty. Destroy it. It's always a woman's fault for the male gaze. Right. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Kofi, and exactly, Matricula. Always a woman's fault. But I also don't want to remove Lucy's agency here, because no one told her to do it. No one said do this. She was really trying to, spite his face. Yeah, fuck this. I'm out. I'm done. No more. Yup. So, like so many things, it's complicated, and there are positive aspects to it and kind of weird problematic aspects. But I'd never seen this representation before. I'd never seen it. And I didn't know who this was until I got back to the ship and looked it up. My Google history for the last few weeks has been full of saint with blah, 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 blah. Saint with lion. Saint with long hair. Saint with eyes on platter. Like, I feel like it's whoever my CIA agent is who's watching my Google history is probably very confused right now. Especially with the other stuff that goes into it. So yeah. And let's see. Oh, right. I forgot. So that was St. Lucy. This is not exactly a story, although there's a little bit of a story that goes with it. Pardon me. Here. One of the things that I really enjoy in Catholic churches and Orthodox churches and all the places of worship that I go visit is seeing how do these places get used? in what ways are they for the people, particularly outside of organized formal services? In what ways are these places that people come for comfort, come for contemplation, come for solace? Right. So I love seeing evidence of that, like candles lit or people spending time in some of these smaller side chapels. They clearly have an attachment to that particular saint or that particular, as we have here, incarnation of the Virgin Mary. But this was something I'd never seen before. So this is, if you can't read it, this is Our Lady of Fatima, which Fatima was a Moorish settlement in southwestern Spain, where after the re-Christianization, after the retaking by down from northern Spain by the Christian monarchs, at some point, and I'm not a historian, so I don't have a date for you, but at some point, the Blessed Virgin Mary, appeared at Fatima to, as one of our guides in Cadiz said, to little shepherd children. They were probably just children. There's the legend that they were shepherds, but there's not a lot of proof of that. Just kids. So she appeared to children, and it became a site of pilgrimage. It became a site of worship, and that representation of Mary, Our Lady of Fatima, became kind of a local saint. You see these things all around. There's Our Lady of Montserrat. It's a very particular representation of Mary. There's Our Lady of Lourdes, another particular representation with a particular story around her appearance. And as a pagan, one of the things I love about this is that some of these, I'm on a tangent here, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Some of these local variants of Mary take on aspects of local goddesses, other deities. There's a Czech version of Mary that's very clearly syncretized with a pre-Christian deity. And I love that. I love how that happens. And that means that in some polytheistic communities, there's a lot of respect for Mary, for essentially being willing to be used that way, which is a whole problematic thing in itself, but kind of cool. So anyway, Our Lady of Fatima, local lady, local saint. But if you look closely in this picture, you'll see a ribbon tied to her, tied to the statue, and then tied to the bars, and then draping down over the sign with a medal dangling on the end. I really wish I could point over there. But there's a medal dangling on the end of the ribbon. And I went and I looked at it, and it's a medal of Our Lady of Fatima as well. And to some degree, this is conjecture. I don't know for sure that this is the why of it, but it sure seems like a good reason. So I looked at this, I saw this, and I thought, what a cool way of facilitating tactile contact with a representation of Mary or of a saint that's important to so many people, but you don't want the statue degraded by being touched. This is a high traffic, tourist friendly area, cathedral. So most of the side chapels have these bars in front of them that closed off except for special occasions. Folks can worship from outside the bars, but it lacks a little bit of that immediacy and that intimacy. And I thought, what a cool way to make a visual and tactile connection from this saint, this representation that means so much to you. Because people can come up, they can hold on to the medallion and pray. They can kiss the medallion. They can, hold the ribbon, feel that, use it like a worry stone, or like, they have their rosaries, but they can hold that as they're worshiping, as they're contemplating, and it gives them a very literal thread of connection. And I really appreciated that. It was something I had never seen before. And I didn't see anywhere else, actually, throughout the trip. I saw 2 of these. There was another representation of Mary in the cathedral that also had a ribbon attached to it and a medal hanging down. But I didn't see it anywhere else, not in Portugal, not in France. Excuse me. Which are the places I would have most expected, because methods get different in Orthodox countries, where you don't have 3D designs. Mostly the important icons are behind glass. So if you need to kiss it, if you need to touch it, they can wipe the glass clean. And of course, mainly Protestant countries don't have this kind of iconography at all, really. So yeah, it was just here. And I don't know if this is something that happens elsewhere, but I loved it. Yeah. Any questions, thoughts, things I glanced over that y'all might want to hear more about? I think of myself as so talkative and verbose that I was like, 3 different saints and comment on Catholic praxis. That's totally an hour's worth of time. But I might have been nervous and overly fast too. So if there's anything else, I'm happy to answer questions. It does go faster than I think. It does, Matricula. And I will know that for next time. Also, if any of this brought up, and thank you, Crafty. Thank you. That means a lot. I like that other people like my stories. If this brings up anything that you'd like, I'd like to hear more of this kind of story or that kind of story, or whatever in future travelogue streams, I'm certainly open to that. You can drop that in chat, or I think it's only social justice bards here right now, so you all know where to find me on Discord. And you're more than welcome to drop any feedback, any desires or this would be cool ideas for future streams there as well. So this time, Matricula, we were in Barcelona for really about a day and a half. We flew in Tuesday morning, on a Tuesday morning, and went. So this visit was what we did after we had put our stuff down on the boat, after we'd gotten into our staterooms. We went back out to fight off jet lag. And my spouse is the sort of person who isn't necessarily inclined to go places he's been before. When he's traveling, he'd rather see new things in general. He is grumpy, he is. But I like to visit old friends. I love to visit old friends, so to speak. So I insisted that we go to the cathedral again. And so we did. And we walked around here, and I think the next day, it is good for him. It is. The next day I think it was when we went up to Sagrada Familia, the really wild modern church that's still being constructed. And we couldn't go in because it was already sold out for the time that we were going to be in town. But we got to see what they'd done on the exterior construction since we'd last been there, and it was really nice. It was really good. And we made sure to have a lunch of little tiny bocadillos. They're like super thin, usually pretty simple baguette type sandwiches, usually with some kind of meat, sometimes cheese and tomato. But I insisted on that too because I love Spanish cured meats and cheeses. So good. I could live on that forever and always. But yeah, just a day and a half, and then we set sail and we're off and away. Yeah? Have you had lunch yet, Matricula? Have you eaten today? Have you snored your stress away? Have you been a good Snorlax? Good. So, okay, all right, good. I will stop the stern face. Yay, crafty. But yeah, so this was just the beginning of a long and amazing journey. Well, we all do what we can to be better Snorlaxes. I don't know if if you're interested in seeing more of the photos, I'll make sure and post my Flickr link in the Discord. I'm slowly getting those up. That's part of why this has taken such a long time. But I'll post that in the Discord, and yeah, I will. Oh, right. I was gonna see if we could do this with incisive commentary. Yes, Matricula. I was gonna see if we could do this tiny raid thing. Is there anyone on that we can go raid? How do I? Let's see. So I'm so new. Okay. Mike TV Live. And I pulled up the tutorial. tutorial. Oh, right. Before I do that, I made a raid call. This may change. I am not holding myself to this. Yay, thank you, Cacophony. Okay, so /raid Mike TV Live. All right, sweet. And we are raiding. The countdown is going. I feel like a real Twitch streamer now. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you being here. And I will yell at you more next week when we go to Cadiz in Spain. We get to hear about heroes and gods who become heroes. Woo!